Welcome to Keep What You Earn, your judgment and jargon-free zone for entrepreneurs of all levels. Get ready to learn how to scale your business, save money in taxes, and create a business that grows your wealth. If it feels like the financial side of business is like eating your vegetables, well, then think of this podcast as the ranch dressing to make the process a little more enjoyable. My name is Shannon Weinstein. I'm a CPA and business owner on a mission to simplify money and empower others through knowledge. I hope this episode inspires you to take action, but remember that the information we share is for educational purposes only and is not individual tax advice. Now that we got that out of the way, let's start the show. When it comes to entrepreneurship, let's be real. People are lying to you if they think they have it all figured out or they're acting like they do. And that's why when I met today's guest and I experienced her transparency and relatability, it was such a breath of fresh air. Now, today's guest is someone I really consider to be a friend and a mentor in business and in life, honestly. Her podcast is called Earn Your Happy, and it continues to soar. And her latest drop, which is a secret podcast called Operation Rekindle This Bitch, is one of my faves right now. I am stoked to welcome Lori Harder onto the show today. And as a serial entrepreneur, top podcast host, and best-selling author, Lori is no stranger to kicking closed doors open. She went from an in-debt high school dropout to a multimillionaire. Her journey ranges from, customer service to network marketing, fitness, personal development, and now she's the founder and CEO of Glossy, which is a skin routine that you can drink. It's also a daily beauty hydrator created with superfood ingredients designed to transform your skin and gut from the inside out. Now, I'm a fan of Lori. I'm a fan of Glossy. I love Glossy. It's delicious. It tastes like sweet lemonade, but without all the sugar and all the other stuff that you don't need in a hydrator. So what I'm excited to talk about with you today and introduce you to Lori to discuss is around the persistence versus the pivot. She went through a really trying time in founding Glossy and getting it off the ground. And the first iteration of it was actually called Light Pink. And she's going to tell you a little bit of that story as well. And what we're going to talk about is that journey from deciding to make that pivot, deciding to change course, and all of the emotions that carried along with that when it comes to entrepreneurship. If you've been afraid of making a pivot or you've been afraid of, having made the wrong decision and your ego is just barking in your ear, this is the episode for you. Let's dive in and hear from Lori. Hey, Lori, it's so good to see you.
I'm so excited to be here. I feel like it's been a long time coming.
It has been a long time coming, but I'm really excited because, you have so much stuff going on. I feel like I've seen so many evolutions of Lori Harder now. I've met you in like 2020 and there's always something exciting going on. But in this particular season, I'm really excited to talk to you.
Ooh, I can't wait. I feel like I have a lot to talk about right now.
You do. You're actually in my ear a lot, saying a lot of truthful things lately. So would you mind just giving a quick little introduction about who you are that maybe they didn't just learn in the bio and intro?
Oh my goodness. Okay. The older you get, the longer this feels, but we're going to try to keep this short for you guys. I feel like it's important to tell people that I am from a really small town. I grew up in a more restrictive religion. I've struggled with my weight. I did not graduate high school. I still haven't to this day. I dabbled in entrepreneurship in my mid to late 20s was the first thing that I did. And that was when I opened my own gym after being a personal trainer and realizing that I would have to hustle really hard, making $6 per 30-minute session at that LA Fitness. And after my husband and I lost everything and we were $300,000 in debt, I did the math and I realized I would never be out of debt. Maybe well into my 80s, the way that we would have to spend on lifestyle and just all of the things and getting out of debt. And so that made me really, really open to a lot of different opportunities. I realized that if I went and started a business somewhere or rented a very small space or did some trade work for people to get that space, that I could be pocketing all of that money for myself. And that was really that first kind of realization of like, wait a minute, $6 versus the $120 that they're paying. That just wasn't adding up to me. Now, mind you, I didn't understand what all goes into a business yet, but that was kind of the first leap into, I'm going to try this thing. And from there, I just really stayed open and receptive to business ideas. And I couldn't have been more against network marketing in my life, watching my parents do it at this particular time. But something happens when you, lose everything and go $300,000 in debt. Suddenly things become very open. One of the people that I was training ended up losing 90 pounds in 6 months. And I had known her for a very long time. She worked with my husband. And she kept telling me about these products and telling me about these products. And I ignored it until she lost these 100 pounds and was lifting heavier weights than me. We had started becoming workout buddies outside of her being my client. And it opened me up to ask her what the products were. And I ended up starting to use them. And one day she came in and she showed me a paycheck for $13,000. And I said, what is this for? Like, is this like 3 months? She said, this is 1 week. And I said, teach me how to do this. I'm extremely interested because I already love these products. That really opened up a whole other world of, getting residual income and understanding what that is. And from there, we invested that money into other businesses that I wanted to be doing. This is over years, you guys. So this is over multiple years. This did not happen overnight. But I really started getting into personal development because I was observing that in network marketing and in fitness, the thing blocking them was not the how, because we were giving that. I was the trainer giving the how. Here's exactly how to do this. Here's exactly how to eat. Network marketing. Here's exactly what to say. Here's exactly what to do. Plug their names in, do this, place this order. It was if they believed they were worthy of it and their confidence and how they felt about money. And so I started getting so deeply into that because I had these moments of like, if I was able to change how I was coming from the money mindset that I had, coming from my parents being bankrupt, coming from thinking money was bad and evil, coming from I'm not worthy enough, I'm not good enough, I don't know what to do with this money, do I even deserve this money? If I was able to transform that for myself, what could happen if I did that for these people and then gave them the vehicle in which they could get to their goals as well? So somehow in my brain, that just was like, okay, well, they have to have personal development if they're going to do the network marketing or if they're going to do the fitness and get the plan. You can't do it without the personal development. So in the programs that I was either going to launch or was launching in the future, everything kind of included a component of that. And this was kind of like when people weren't looking at business from a holistic approach. And I was like, if you're going to talk about the body, you got to talk about the mind. Like you have to do it. It has to be everything, like not just mind, but mindset. And you really have to like change the way that you think about things by first taking account of how do you think about things? Because I think so many people go through the world and they don't actually know how they feel about money. They don't actually know what they believe about their body, what they believe about their worthiness, what they believe is possible for them and why, like where did that belief come from? And so got into personal development, wrote books, did events, and then really realized like, wow, we can help a lot of entrepreneurs and really started to double down on entrepreneurial events. And then I also started a physical product because in network marketing, I sold products left and right, millions and millions of dollars worth of products. And I've always loved products. I'm such a consumer. I might have cabinets and cabinets full of products. I feel like I'm that person that has a product and goes, this could be better. And I'm very passionate about products because they're simple habits that can change your life. Like I'm really, really into habit stacking. And that is how now I'm doing Glossy, which is a daily
Mhm.
beauty supplement. And we do entrepreneurial events. And I do a podcast that helps people who are, the big dream meets the messy middle. And they come to the podcast to kind of figure it all out.
Yeah, and I love that the theme I always see with you is kind of this, like, this could be better, but it's also, the mindset shifts that have to happen where, like you just said, it was confidence, not competence that was holding them back. And I think a lot of people invest in the competence thinking that's what's going to be the factor. Like they invest in the trainer, they invest in the meal plan, they invest in the how, and then, but they're never really ready to go and adopt those new habits. They're not ready to become that person that does that thing. They just think, "Oh, if I add this to my calendar, magically things will change." And it's not the case. And it's true of business, money, fitness, all of those things. I mean, I feel like you've just done evolutions of that in every area of your life. You're like, "Nope, you have to unlock the confidence factor or else you're not going anywhere."
Yeah, it's because I kept getting stuck, and everything that I've ever done is from my personal experience. Some people are really good at teaching like frameworks of like, they can learn something from someone else and teach that framework. I am only capable, well, I don't want to say that. I'm sure I could really like learn how to do that, but my skill set is to just teach from my experience. Like that's all that I can do. That also always helps me to say, I'm not sure But here's what I experienced.
Yeah, but you're not bullshitting anybody. You're not going to bullshit somebody and say, here's what I think you should do. And it's like, I haven't done that before. So I'm not going to speak out of my you know what and be like, this is what I think, even though I have no basis for that. But I think a lot of people try to showboat their opinion or have an opinion on something they haven't done, haven't seen, and really don't know a lot about. And they have conviction. And that's what's a little bit scary is that you think, do they have this experience or are they just really freaking confident that they know how to tell me what to do? That's the mentorship, though. You went after a mentor that was doing. I just heard you say, once I noticed the results were happening, I was like, what are you doing? And not like, what do you think I should do? What do you think I should do? What do you think I should do? Just asking random people, right?
Oh my gosh. I was just listening to a podcast. It was Alex Hermosi and Lewis Howes. It was such a good podcast.
That's such a good one.
Oh my God, it's one of my favorites. And he was saying, it's like ask the people who have done it and just say, what does it take to get there? Like, what would it take me to get there? And it's a simple like formula of show me what you did and you can see the path, or it's going to go back to like getting the mindset of like knowing that you need to take those first actions. So there's going to be those things that come up around taking that first step and then taking that second step. So it's working on your mindset, your environment while taking those actions.
Absolutely. And so the first time I met you and Chris, right, when I was in your mastermind, that's exactly what happened to me. So I came in going, I'm going to learn how to do this, 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 this. I'm coming in with a mission. I have like 3 goals I want to do while I'm here and get as much knowledge on these areas of my business as possible. And I admittedly was like very much a Chris fan. I wasn't as familiar with your content, but I'm telling you, you did a 180 on me by the end of Fast Foundations. And I was like, more of Lori because I don't need more skills. I don't need more strategy. I was a pretty strategic mind and Chris like enhanced that for me and he always will. But there was always this angle of like that voice in my ear, some telling me like, yeah, you can fucking do it. I was like, oh, sometimes you have to hear that outside of yourself. And this was me growing up, right? It was like you're so smart, you get straight A's if you do this, if you do this, and you're like on paper checking all the boxes, like you will be successful. And that's what we're taught. I had almost a polar opposite background to you, but I never gained that confidence. Like I had that lacking because it was all about chasing competence. And that was what was going to build the confidence. And I'm like, oh, but doing the thing, that's actually what you need to go do is go out and do sooner and stop like focusing in theory the whole time of what could be. And then you start to spin of like, this could happen or this could happen. And then you just get stuck and you don't take action.
You literally, unfortunately, have to go and do the things. And the first time you do it, you're not going to feel good about it. It's going to feel really bad. And especially the things that we have to factor in and give ourselves like compassion around is that back in the day, we could try all these things and not have it be publicized. Everything we're trying now is online. Like, you roll something out, people see it, they're going to know if it fails or not. And I think that that's the part that you have to accept is like the people who are the most successful let go of if it fails or not. Like they know that it's a part of it. And the people whose respect you actually want respect you, even if it fails for being out there. And so I know even when I talk to people, like I actually respect the person more who tried and I saw try and it didn't work out. I'm like, I will be the first person to want to go to that woman and go, okay, what's next? Like, who cares? What's next? Rather than the person who's like not trying or trying to make it perfect or trying to hide that they failed. Like, I don't relate to you if you didn't fail. So I probably won't really enjoy talking to you.
Yeah. Also, what can you teach me? If you didn't make any mistakes, how can you shortcut me avoiding some? If you didn't drive over the potholes, how are you going to tell me how to avoid them?
Exactly.
And that's a great segue into let's talk about this that you very bravely went into an alcohol company during COVID. But that's exactly what you said. You're like, the first time you're going to do something, you got to get scrappy, mistakes will be made. Talk to me about and talk to everyone about, if they don't know the story, a little bit about those pieces of, why did you decide to go into this unfamiliar territory, number one, but then talk to me about that sort of shift and that pivot that you took with Glossy.
You said I went into it confidently. I went into it, I hear naively.
Took a leap.
Yes, exactly. I think I'm going to take you back to where I was during that time. It was 2017 where I had just written a book. I had just gone on a book tour. I had done two of them, multiple cities, each book tour. I was checking this box that felt really good to check. I'm not going to lie, because coming from someone who didn't graduate high school and was told, you won't amount to anything, and feeling like for myself, that was such a massive goal along with the business goals that I had reached up to that point. I had this realization that I hadn't set goals past that. Like, I didn't think I was going to even reach those, Shannon. Like, those were big goals. I was like, oh my God, I haven't planned past this because I never thought that I would do this. But go figure, you surround yourself with enough entrepreneurs and get in enough masterminds and you get around enough people who make you think it's possible, all of a sudden you're getting there faster. So that's where I found myself in 2017. And once that was done, I was in a place where, Shannon, I had just written a book on like tribe and female friendships. And I had come off of a really lonely streak of my life where I was just trying to not be poor ever again. I just was out running.
It's like, I want to find that place where I can get comfortable and then I can go to that next level of like, not just comfortable, but thrive.
Yes.
It's like, where can I actually thrive and get out of survival mode and get out of just hustling back to neutral, right? You actually want to grow as a person.
So I was like having the realization that I had spent every day up until that day of my career in hustle mode, like just running from what was into hopefully far enough away of who I want to be. And there wasn't a whole lot of joy involved in any of it. I'm not going to lie. Like, I look back and I think that I really unfortunately did not enjoy a lot of it, which is why I talk so much about happiness and joy and trying to enjoy the journey now. So at that point, I had this opportunity of like, what's next? And I was looking around at all of my peers because at the time I was hanging out with a lot of like people who had digital courses, events, and books. And I was in all of these conversations with these women who were doing really well. I got to talk to women who were making 7 figures a year. That's incredible, to be doing digital courses and books and speaking and events. Like, that's an incredible feat to get there. Not many people do. But I'm looking at the grand scheme of my life and who I want to become and what I wanted to make. And I was like, I can write another book. I can do some more courses and events, but I'm not feeling super challenged. I was tired. I was exhausted, but I wasn't feeling challenged, meaning it wasn't a new venture for my brain or for me. And that's where I get a lot of my happiness and fulfillment from, is like learning something new, learning a new skill set, meeting new people.
It's the journey through the discomfort. And it's like, I have to expose myself to some discomfort. Otherwise, if I'm comfortable, it's like me in a low spin class where it's just like you're pedaling in one motion and you're like, I'm not moving forward. I'm doing something, but I'm not really enjoying it anymore. You get kind of bored after a while.
That's exactly where I was at. And I was grateful, but I was like, I need a challenge. I have to do something else. And I was noticing that a lot of my interests, I was noticing my podcasts were shifting. I was listening to founders. I was like so lit up. I'm like obsessed with Gary Vee, listening to all these female founders, like learning about, Allie Webb and Drybar and Jamie Kern Lima and the girls from Summer Fridays and these clothing companies. And I'm watching like Revolve launch and take off, which is a clothing company. And I'm like, peak interested, peak. Like, I could go all day long in like flow state, listening, just like loving it, right? Ideating, thinking of all these things. I'm like, oh, I think this is where I'm supposed to go next. Not I think, I know.
By the way, that was you, Chris, Jess Glazer. Then I got into Gary Vee, Lewis House, like through you guys. It was like Jess started it for me, and then I got into you guys, and then you guys got me into like Lewis House, and then all the other. And now it's just now it's the Hormozis and Jeff Fenster, and oh my God, all of that stuff. And I'm just going, I could listen to this for hours and hours and hours on end and never get bored and always learn something new. And being in that learning is like my happiest zone too. Like, it's just when you can consume that and get ideas, it's just like exhilarating.
Oh my God, it's the best. And that's where you need to follow. And I was like, okay, we're going to do a consumer product. Like, I love products. I was in network marketing. It was just like, that's what I did. I sold products. So, that's when I decided that I wanted to like get into the product spaces because I wanted to really learn. I wanted to feel challenged. And I also knew that, I had just written this book about female friendships and loneliness. And I just came off of a really lonely time of not having a lot of friends. And going and speaking at events by myself and writing another book would do what to my day to day life? I'd be isolated every day by myself. And so I was like, that is not the path.
Yeah, traveling also creates loneliness, and you wanna get out of that isolation and reconnect with people. But you had a specific element of this product that was super cool. And when you went into the alcohol company, was it just a product? Because you just mentioned that, okay, I wanted to create a consumer product. Now, how did you get to the light pink iteration of this evolution? Like, how did you decide on what it was and what it did and how you were gonna market it? What was the intent behind that of all products you could have done? Because you could have done shakes again, you could have done anything, and why this one?
Well, I feel like I was reading, what is it? Is it Blue Ocean? What's the book about kind of the white space?
Blue Ocean Strategy? Loved it.
So I'm always looking at like, where's the next thing? What is it? And, I look at products, but I'm like, how can I make a product better? Like, that's what I like to think about and do. And so at the time, this is, you know, 2018 ish, 2019 ish, when the thought is coming in. I'm starting to ideate. I'm like, if I could do anything, what would it be? And I'm thinking of all the products and what I'm seeing on the market. First, let me say, I was in the fitness space forever. So health and wellness, but I also am the girl who is very balanced. So I like to go have wine. I love wine. I loved wine so much at the time, even more than I do now. Um, I'm the girl who is like, why isn't there like a lighter wine that is a little bit like we can have it anywhere? It's a little bit lighter. The can is really cute because they were coming out with all of these great canned wines. And it was starting to be the thing because White Claw was coming out and I was like, wait, White Claw is, I hated it. Um, it didn't taste good. More power to you if you like it. But I also knew the clientele of White Claw, like we wanted something way more elevated. We wanted to feel like it looked better. We wanted to feel like it was prettier. And I was like, there has to be a way to create like this spritz, like a wine spritz, so that it's lighter and a spritz would go in a can. That you could just crack one open. That's why I wanted to do the can because I didn't want to open a whole bottle of wine and pour a half a glass. I was like, nope, I want to be able to open it up. I want to have this experience. I want to have more than 2 ounces. Like I want to have a drink or two and have it be lighter. And so I wanted to solve that problem. I wanted something really light for low calories. And that felt like a great problem for me to solve. And when I started to talk about it to friends, they were like, yes, why doesn't this exist? Like, I'm so sick of drinking vodka and soda. That tastes disgusting, but I drink it anyway. And I tell people it's my drink. I'm like, but you don't like it. They're like, no. Okay. Let me make something that tastes freaking amazing that we can all enjoy. And let me do a non alcoholic version of it for the nights you don't want to drink and for the girlfriends who don't drink. But let's make the cans look alike so that they don't feel like they don't fit in. And then the other thing I wanted to add was, I was living in LA. I was pretty new to the LA area, like not super new, but new enough where I didn't have a ton of friends yet. And I was trying to go to these networking events. And I'll be honest, like I would leave and I'd be like, that really sucked. Like I didn't, get any answers that I wanted. We didn't really deeply connect. Nobody knows how to ask a question there. Like, what the hell are we doing? We all just drank too much, ate too much, and now we didn't get anything we want. It was a huge waste of time. I spent 2 hours in traffic just to get to this thing. And so I was like, where are women outside of the personal development world connecting? Because I had wrote the book, and while the book did well, the book didn't reach super far outside of women who were already reading personal development books. I wanted to hit women who weren't reading them. Like I wanted to teach those women how to actually connect and get answers that they needed and to create real connections. And so because I had been writing the book and running these events and understanding how to truly connect women and help them get what they want, like leave these events with what they want, I knew that the answer could be as simple as 3 very specific questions. Now, these questions could rotate. I could put them on the can. They could be different every month, but they would be questions that you could not ask someone this question and not get an answer that you were looking for, or get a good answer that made you feel more connected to this person than maybe some people that you've had in your life for a long time. And so I came up with that idea that I wanted to solve that problem. I wanted to solve the connection problem, and I wanted to solve a lighter cocktail that tasted good problem. I came up with the deck. I shared this with all of my girlfriends. I shared this with people outside of my circle. They were all extremely excited, wanted the same exact thing. And so it felt like a great idea.
Hey, real quick, are you learning anything in this episode that you think is share worthy? Well, if you could take a quick screenshot and share any of your biggest takeaways or quotes from this episode, post it to Instagram and make sure to tag me at Shannon K. Weinstein and at Keep What You Earn. Thank you so much for listening to the show. Let's dive back in.
This wasn't just a couple people who thought it was a great idea. It was a lot of people. And so moved forward, raised the money, talked to formulators, talked about the idea, talked to some business people. I think the thing that I wish is I would have talked to more people already in that industry. And it's a very closed off industry, I will tell you, because not a whole lot of people love talking to you about it. And when they do, they kind of just say, "You're funny. Like, this is so cute, little girl," which I had been told multiple times. But unfortunately, all that did for me was say, "Keep going, show them." So if I could do it differently, I would have probably worked a little bit harder on asking more people in the industry what it all entailed. But that's how that idea started. And it was a year and a half during the pandemic that I finally ended up pivoting, because clearly during the pandemic with, co-packers shutting down, manufacturers shutting down, minimum order quantities going way up, which was just knocking startups like off the board. We couldn't even afford to order our lids. We couldn't find the cans because, big companies were buying up all of the aluminum cans because there was something called the candemic. Like, it was a very hard, interesting time. And in the startup world, thankfully, I didn't have a huge monthly burn rate at the time, but you're burning money every month that you don't get that product out and have customers coming in. And so a year and a half into it, I had about $1 million left. And I was like, I either have enough money to pivot and create something, or we're going to keep pouring into something that isn't working and it's going to burn up really, really fast. And so we decided to do a pivot. After talking to some very intelligent business people in the alcohol industry who said, "Hey, you're not going to have a viable business. You either need to go raise 10 million more dollars if you think you're even going to try to stay afloat, in this industry, or you can go and take your skill set, pivot, and you can get back to something you know how to do that doesn't have as big of red tape, as big of legal fees." I was spending hundreds of thousands of dollars went to my legal fees just to make sure we were operating on the up and up, and have things approved. So that's when we decided to pivot. And that was honestly the hardest decision ever of my entire business life, because, I can say, "Oh, I had 54 female investors." The level of emotion and connection and like shame and guilt and stress and just what you're holding of that cash from people that you know and you love. Like, I didn't just raise it from anyone. I didn't raise it from an institution where it's like, I don't know who these people are really. I raised it from my friends, my best friends, my mentors, friends of mentors, because they referred me. Like, it was like everyone that I adore and respect, put them in that pile. And then every time I failed and made a bad decision, it's like I lined them up in my head and made them all look at me with a disappointed face. And I would just lose my fucking mind. And that's what you deal with at 2 a.m. when you take $2 million from people you love. And it is like a pressure like nothing else I've ever experienced. And there are times that I regret it, but I also know that if I didn't, that is the exact pressure that made me pivot, that made me keep going, that keeps me up to get the job done, to now have a company that I feel really proud of. And I wouldn't have it without that.
And there's so many of those people who had never been exposed to being an investor or getting to watch this from such close, we'll say courtside seats to this. And I think that it's an opportunity for both. But I want to go back to what you were saying too, because it's like you have to pivot this, like you have to change your product. What I want you to realize too, Lori, is your product was always connection. Because it was like you just mentioned happy hours, and you're like, I just want to be able to drink something with my girlfriends. It was always with my girlfriends. That never left. It was just the vehicle through which your product was coming out. It was just coming out in that little can versus now the stick. But I've always thought, like, when you pivoted it, I was like, it's the same product with a different package. It's Lori's connections. That's always going to be infused in whatever product you have. And that's what your investors invested in. And I bet you, I don't know this firsthand, but I bet you that almost all of your investors, when you did that, probably just said, I invested in you. I trust you. Like, you're going to crush at this thing. How did you manage that communication once you decided to make that pivot? Talk to me about the decision when you chose Glossy and how you approached. I'm sure it was like that, like sweaty palm about to hit send on that email. Like, I don't want to disappoint you guys. Like, how did that feel?
It's a pretty awful experience, but people have done it before. So I talked to people who had done it before because there is a beautiful, graceful way to do it. And you send out quarterly investor emails. And I knew you can kind of push them, like you can get away with 4 months maybe without one. And that's kind of where I was. I had this window that I knew I needed to come up with the next plan solid. I needed to feel confident in myself in order to send that letter and tell the next story that they could get excited about. And for me, this has been so hard and I'm so sad. Like, I literally signed up to be a leader. I asked for this. I prayed for this. I get to now choose that if I need a little extra time to remember who I am and learn how to do this, that's what I need to do. And so, it was really powerful because I had obviously had Chris through a lot of this, who's my husband. He was like, okay, you got to talk to this person and this person. We talked to our friend Bill Glazer, who has just like been in all forms of business, right? He's been through pivots. He's lost money. He's had money. He's, raised so much money. And he really, really helped me through this as well. And Chris was like, Lori, like you need to go and be the person who repitches the vision. And he was kind of saying the same thing. We knew it was the same idea, the same vision. It really was women coming together and connecting and over something that we were excited about. And he was like, you need to get back into the dream and you need to repitch this and make them excited again. So you cannot send this letter until you paint the picture of why this is so much better than what you were doing. And so it was so much better. This was not we have to figure out how to paint the picture. It was like, we need to tell them why this is better for my skill set, why this is better for the team's skill set, why this is better for saving money legally, why this costs less, why this is a better product, less risk, everything, why this is a better fit for their people, for our people, for people on our list, like why this is better for the timing, why this is better because people are getting more into health, they're not drinking as much. Like we need to get all of the reasons to get so freaking excited that we actually decided to pivot, and all of those lessons learned and where we can go with this coming up next. And also that it wasn't a waste. Like so much of that helped us get so clear on exactly what we need to be doing. Because I promise you, this idea would not have come through without the other one first. It just wouldn't have. I wouldn't have been sitting and going, oh God, how can I get more money in the order basket for light pink? And I was like, wait, I always drink these hydration sticks, but why don't these hydration sticks do more for me? Like, I wish that I could stop taking a lot of my supplements if I just poured it into my water. And why does this freaking hydration stick not taste good? Like, why is it always got to be so pungent or so salty? Or why am I spending $45 for salt and sugar? Couldn't I get like something better? Like, what's going on with this? And so I started asking those questions while being in that other company and just learning all of those lessons. So, you can't ever look at anything as a failure. I think it's when you don't pivot is when you really have a problem. I think that initial carrot is often what's trying to get you to the next thing, but it's that sunk cost fallacy. I believe that's what it's called.
I just talked about that on the podcast. So the sunk cost bias that because I've invested so much, I must stay on the ship even though there is a hole in it. I must stay on the ship because I committed to it's kind of this like stubborn commitment fallacy of I committed and I must see through the commitment even if I go down with the ship. And that's the person I don't want to invest in because they're a steward of the money. And I go, I expect you to have the judgment to know, hey, this may not work out, but we're going to steer it a different direction. That's what people want. They don't want the stubborn, like stuck in their ways, headstrong person who's like, nope, we're going to drive this thing as far as it'll go when they see the writing on the wall.
Oh my God. And, this is where the things that you and I believe in, which is like getting in the rooms with other people and like making sure you surround yourself with other entrepreneurs. And there's something to saying like, yes, we can get in the rooms. We know tons of people who get in the networking rooms. We see them do the rounds. Certain things don't move. And it's like, it's another thing to get in the rooms and be vulnerable and say, here is where I'm struggling. Here's where I think that like I suck. Here's where I need help. Could somebody please look at this business? And that is a big part of what happened during this pivot is I got to a place where I'm like, oh my God, I'm not going to have a business in like 12 months if someone doesn't come in and tell me where I'm going terribly wrong. And that was one of the hardest things that I did was to have an expert come in I did not pay this person. I got super lucky that I just was at the right place at the right time and was asking a lot of questions and ended up getting this person and saying, "Hey, would you ever just take like a few minutes? Can I tell you about my numbers, where I'm at, what I'm thinking, like, and just tell me, do I have a viable business?" And that was one of the hardest conversations because I had to say, here's what I've spent, here's where I've lost money, here's the mistakes that I've made, here's what I don't know, here's where I'm lost, here's where I need help. And that was extremely hard because it's like showing people how much you don't feel secure in your business.
It's like walking in and weighing yourself and showing your food diary.
It's exactly what it is.
I feel judged, like I'm judging myself, so they're judging me. This is bad. I'm embarrassed. And like it's so funny because that's how what you're describing is what I do with people. So it's funny because they come in and I'm like, so show me your numbers, show me everything. And it's kind of like, well, let me explain this before you see it. And I'm like, there's no explanation necessary. It's fine. I'm going to just piece the story together. I'm going to ask you questions just so that I don't miss any characters or what happened in last episode. And then we're good. Like, I just want to catch up on season 3 and then be able to tell you what's going to happen next. But that's the key thing is just having that like willingness to say, like the discomfort we talked about, willingness to get a little bit uncomfortable because, on the other side of it is like, this is the help I need though.
Oh my God. It was gut wrenching because the answer that I got was not the answer that I wanted. I thought I was getting on the phone to have this person tell me, "Here, I know how to save the day. Here's exactly what to do, and I'll be your advisor." That's literally what I thought I was getting on the phone to do with this particular person. And instead, I got, "Oh, yeah, you don't have a viable business. This is not a good idea. You're either going to do this or you're going to do this. Like, here's your choices. And you get to decide, like, keep failing or totally pivot into something else." So, um, for anybody listening, like, if you're in that position, the faster you can get someone in who's done what you are doing, the less you're going to waste your money and spinning your wheels and the pain. And it's not easy, but getting someone in like a Shannon or, like someone who's done it before is the most important thing that you can do.
Yeah, I think it's also just that fresh perspective of what do you see that I don't? What are the blind spots you see that I don't? Because specifically from the standpoint of a CFO, I can speak to that and say, while I haven't grown, say, a company like yours, I've worked with dozens who have and seen what happens. Like I've seen that movie. I see what mistakes they're making from the sidelines, luckily. We're helping and we're advising, but we're watching everything. And we know what dials to turn and say, you could do this, or you could do this, or you could do this. And that's the great thing about what we do. But it's also what most business owners don't realize is available to them through mentorship or through just asking advice of people who have been there or have seen it. It's huge, but you just have to be willing to say, I need help. And I think that we're all kind of conditioned in a way, Lori. Like this goes back to your first story and a bit of mine too. It's you're afraid to ask for help because you're like, I'm supposed to know this. Like I'm just somehow supposed to know this, even though I've never done it. Nobody knows what the hell they're doing. We all find out. But like we still have this kind of pressure on ourselves that we're supposed to know everything, or if we ask for help, we're somehow weak or, you know, burdening other people.
So this is such an interesting topic, but that is the portion of like having to do this online and socially and have everybody see everything because there is a fine dance of like, "Hey, come work with me." But then like, what if they know I don't know how to do X, Y, and Z? Like, I kind of feel like the faster you can out yourself nowadays, the better. Like, say that you know how to help people with what you know and be really like admit where you don't know and that you're learning. But even in the learning phase, you're still ahead of other people. You're going to get yourself in trouble when you try to act like a professional to everyone.
That right there. Or when you commit to learning how to build the plane while you're flying it. Or if you say, I want to help this person, I've been there. I want to help this person. I don't have experience in that industry though, but I'll figure it out. Can't be that hard. But you don't ask the person who's already done it. And in particular, this one was restaurants. Oh, now I'm just like, I work with almost anybody, no restaurants. Like we just say, we're not doing that anymore. And that's okay. But it's one of those things where you can have the confidence to do it. And then you realize, ooh, there's a gap there on the competence side. And you have to be able to acknowledge that and say, I could make that up, but I'm not going to do it on someone else's dime. And I'm not going to do it with someone else's money. So there's a fine line though between that, like it's tuition to learn these things, but also you have to be very careful with when you're trusted by those other people It's like, do I really need my expertise preloaded, or can I get away with earning this expertise and being just that little like 1% ahead? You really have to contextualize that.
Ugh. And this is the struggle in the dance entrepreneurship.
And it never ends, by the way. Like no one figures this out. There's no hack to this. And it's something I struggle with constantly is I love to learn, I love to do new things, but I'm also like, yes, but by doing new things, there's a risk there. So like do we stick to what we know or do we dabble in new things? And it's hard to balance that.
Little of both.
A little bit of both, yeah. But now you're in Glossy, right? You have a co-founder now and you are growing that company, and I just love the creativity of how you've infused those connection elements into the offer. You've even expanded beyond the outside the product. I call it outside the box, literally, of Glossy. You're engaging with your subscribers. Nothing made me happier than seeing the videos of you guys at Powerhouse Women with the little bar stand and going like, finally, like, I just go, all it was a difference of the label between your vision and that. Like, your original light pink vision. I just pictured, like, all they did was change the label, but I feel like there's the same, like, pride and the, like, "Oh my god, we fucking did it."
Oh my God. It is the same. That's really funny you say that. Like it would have been the same exact experience for the most part, you know?
Yeah, but you got that. You finally squeezed that out after all of those different things, but it's such a blessing, though, to find that out and to kinda get that hard truth. On that note, like, some people just can't handle those hard truths, and they're just not ready to hear that. I love that you just shared that you were kinda going in going, "I hope I was gonna get a cheerleader, but I got a coach." Saying, "You gotta run this play instead." What's your advice to those people who are scared to go in for those hard truths or scared to get a hard truth back at them if they ask these questions?
Oh God. Well, first I'll tell you, like, I cried. Like after that call, I was not okay with that. I didn't accept the answer right away. Someone can tell you on a call you don't have it and they can be an expert and you can really want to believe them. But I am a strong willed mother trucker and that was not fun for me. The conversation with my husband went something like through like hysterical tears. She doesn't know me. She doesn't know what I'm capable of. She doesn't know what I came from. She has blah, 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 all the things. But at the end of the day, she's an expert and she knows the industry. And I had felt like I just got gutted. Like literally, this was my dream. I didn't have a backup plan. I didn't have another one. And again, let's take the jury, like the women of those investors turn them towards me. It's very hard to get creative when you're in a fearful place. And so I had to sit with that for a while. So when people have to do the hard conversations, just be aware that this is not easy for anyone. It's going to get easier as you do more and more of them. What's harder is to continue down the path that is not working. Like you don't actually have to be on that path for as long as you think. I think that when you ask and have enough hard questions, you can turn it pretty quickly. Like maybe you try more, maybe you fail faster, but the faster that you can get in another trial experience or another at bat, the more that you are getting closer to the yeses and the thing that's going to work. And so that's what you want to do. You want to have the hard conversations faster. So I started seeking them a lot faster after that because I was like, well, I kind of got the worst one out of the way. The one that's like, I could have told you this already. You're crazy, whatever. Okay, that one really sucked. So now let's
Yeah.
get into the what am I dealing with? What could we do? What's out there that I'm not seeing? What problems are going to arise with this one? Like you can imagine I went into this one with a very different set of questions than I went in with the first one. I was not asking, okay, what are the legalities around this? How much are the general legal fees of something like this? How bad could it get? Like, how much is shipping? What's the weight of this product? I wasn't asking those questions before. And now I'm like, let's start with the margins in mind and create a product off of that.
Music to my ears. Starting with the margins in mind is like the best advice. But also, the way I put it is just getting off the raft before you hit the rocks. And that's it. It's just like changing the raft. It's like, would you rather take the risk of not knowing what rapids are coming or just go, it's been a fun ride. I'm going to get off the raft here and switch out? There's no shame in that. Like, it's easy for me to say there's no shame in that. There's feeling of shame in all of this that's acknowledged, but it's also like when you step outside of it and you go, damn, I'm glad I did that. And that's I think that when you've been through enough of those, damn, I'm glad I did that, whether it's firing somebody, having a tough conversation, whether it's this, anything else where you're like, I know I need to have that conversation and I've been avoiding it or I'm scared. It's like on the other side of that is this being 10 times easier the next time it has to happen. And 10 times easier again. But like letting someone go, same feeling I had the first time. I was like, this is gut wrenching. This is heartbreaking. I have failed immensely. And then cut to a few later, and I was like, this is down to a system. This is down to like, it's just business. It's just logic. And there's not like, first time I was like up all night, stressed, panicked, like, what have I done to this person? And then like, we'll say the third or fourth one was like back to business the next day. And not to take the heart out of it, but it comes down to those hard conversations on repeat and you get better and better at them. They don't get easier, so to speak, but I feel like you build the strength just like you do in the gym. You're building more strength to handle it as opposed to like the weight doesn't change, you get stronger.
We're always trading discomforts. Like, I think the price that you pay for entrepreneurship is hard conversations, feeling uncomfortable, and managing the feeling of risk and publicly failing. Like, those are the prices. You can't not pay them. And you're going to pay them over and over again. So you either get used to paying them or you need to go back to being familiar with the pain of, whatever pain comes with working for someone else and solving someone else's problems. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter which pain you decide. It has to be the pain that pays off for you.
Yeah, I say choose your hard, right? It's going to be hard to look at your numbers. It's going to be harder when you lose the money. It's going to be hard when you can't walk across a parking lot. It's also hard to go to the gym. Choose your hard. And that's like the biggest message I think I wish I heard maybe 20 years earlier. But that's a really big part of it. And I'm so glad that that resonated for you because that's something we're always trying to preach to around money is like, it's hard. We know it's hard to look it in the face or to hear the bad news or to, be forced to be a little bit uncomfortable with this stuff. But I promise you that like once we get that shift, it's like night and day. Once a business owner, once a founder comes to us and says, this is like the first time I've really looked at my numbers and now I'm like obsessed with them and scorekeeping them and this is fun and I actually enjoy looking at it. Like just ending on this note, just tying this back into what we do, as founders and with our money, did you feel like that was a transformation for you as well going through this experience?
Oh my God. It was life changing. Like, the more that I look at the money, the better I feel, even when it's not good. Actually, let me take that back, especially when it's not good. The more I look at it and the more I understand it, better I feel, the more control I feel I have over it. And it's like, it's life changing because I know where I need to pull back. I know where I can spend. I know what I need to get in through the door. And that becomes the focus. And I think that nothing gets you more crystal clear than being crystal clear on your numbers, like crystal clear on what you should be doing and where you should be taking action. Because in business, what happens is it's really easy to get caught up in the busy work or the look of things or, what would be fun or what sounds good or what someone else is doing. If your numbers are not lined up with being able to do those things yet, you need to get back into some other things. And really, the numbers inform what you should be acting.
I agree. I know we talked a lot about mentorships too, and a lot about asking for the right advice from the right people. You and Chris have been immensely valuable resources for me and for so many others through your masterminds. You guys have the Elite Entrepreneur Mastermind is starting in a couple of weeks from the airing of this episode. If you have spots left, guys, follow Lori Harder and Chris W. Harder on Instagram at Lori Harder at Chris W. Harder and find out if they still have spots left. And if they don't, still follow them because they got some more stuff in store for you guys, right?
We do. We're serving both categories of entrepreneurs. So we're going to serve the 500K and below entrepreneur. And I think we're going to keep that 100K to 500K. And then we're going to serve the 500K and up entrepreneur. It's just a totally different set of problems, different set of guest speakers, things like that.
Yeah. And just to talk about that a little bit from my experience with your former program, Fast Foundations, the amount that you pour into this is the first time you're doing it together, right? Like the first time you're doing the Elite Mastermind together and really infusing both of your styles into that. That's going to be so dang powerful. It's going to be so exciting because I really feel like I lucked out with doing this with you guys. And I did it fully virtual. So the in-person elements of what you guys do are really powerful as well. And you're doing a little bit of that too with the elite entrepreneurs, right?
Yes. I will say, Chris, he's such a strategist, but I'm such a facilitator. Like, if I could say I'm one thing, it's like I am such a facilitator of just connection and getting people to meet the right people, and create a room where you're comfortable to be able to get vulnerable. So that's the whole key to the mastermind, is where I think we do really well, is getting people in a place where they can actually share to get the help that they need.
I couldn't agree more because every room I've been in that you guys have, opened up, that has been the case. I've never seen people get more vulnerable. I've seen tears shed, hugs,
Mhm.
friendships made, relationships made in those rooms, but also most importantly, people are always one connection away from whatever it is they need, whether they ask for it or they don't. They're always one connection away from what they need. And the resources there are just immensely valuable. I'll make sure I put your link in the show notes to learn more about the masterminds and to your websites, but also just to follow along with what these guys are doing because you'll learn a ton.
Oh, I'm so grateful for you. I could talk to you all day long. I'm so glad that you're doing a podcast now, because I just think like even your voice is podcast voice. It's great.
Like a true podcaster, we adopt a puppy and she ruins everything.
Welcome to my world.
I know, because you got the dogs too. Yeah, exactly. Like Bananas is on the podcast and now Lola is too. I can hear her out there. But Lori, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I loved it.
We realize that CFO services may not necessarily be accessible to everybody. And that's why we have packaged our CFO services into a power session for you. With this single purchase session, you'll be able to navigate the financial scorecard with me personally on your business and figure out what constraint you need to unlock next. We're going to give you direction, clarity, and we're going to find ways to increase your profitability, increase your cash flow, and make sure you never run out of money. Okay, if you're interested in booking a power session with me, I only do a couple per month, so make sure you jump on quickly and sign up. Check the link in the show notes for more information. I can't wait to see you in a power session.